I can hire you to work for me, but I can't train you to be my boss.
When I was a teacher up until last December, I felt like there was a disconnect between the seasoned professionals and the younger ones, and sometimes there was a stigma with being a young professional, because I guess we came in with so many ideas and creative ways to do something that's already been in place, and sometimes not only was it not valued, but it was, I guess, frowned upon, because sometimes people are just used to doing things a certain way.
Many of the youth that I talk and work with feel that there's an opportunity to be involved when there's a physical need to help for things such as setting up events. But when it comes to sitting at a boardroom to really express ideas of, how do you put together an event for the youth, if you look at many of those committees, there are very few youth who partake in that or able to partake in that.
Yeah,
So.
I think you can go through our history, you can see in many cases where there's been this, I wouldn't say divide, but in some cases a divide between emerging professionals and those in the corporate world and others in leadership positions. So what we've been really trying to do now is how do we bridge that gap, how do we connect the dots, because it really comes down to leadership today and beyond today. What's going to happen, who's going to be in those positions. If you look around at nonprofit institutions, you look at corporate institutions, who will be that group that steps in now and assumes leadership as we transition? And we'll talk about passing the baton. Well, who are we going to pass it to?
I think it's important for young professionals to be involved in every aspect of the community, because ultimately it's going to be on our backs in the future. So we definitely have to get involved as early as possible.
I became involved with the African American Young Professionals Initiative because I felt as if there was a great need for African Americans to connect in this city in order to learn and grow from each other, and in order to get in contact with those established professionals so that we can kind of help each other to fill the positions and fill the shoes of those who have already been
involved with AAYP is because I want to help create a network for young professionals in Omaha. I think that a lot of people who come in from other states or other cities to work here, they're at a huge disadvantage because they don't have a network professionally per se outside of their companies or outside of their corporations, if they don't really know many people who are young professionals in the
I'm a participant in the African American Young Professionals group because it's a great way to get to know other young professionals in Omaha, and it also has opened doors for me to network and to meet some of those more experienced, seasoned professionals in Omaha, and I think that's a necessary component.
Like myself and others that really have the passion and the vigor and the zeal that really want to get involved and need some mentorship from the older established professionals, but we don't see that platform, and that's why I believe that African American Young Professionals, this group is really setting the standard for the generations to come.
It's okay to have different ideas, but at some point everybody needs to come together so that we can strike a mighty blow.
Bridging the gap is something that I don't think is touched on enough, and I think we have created opportunities to bridge that gap and just to open the door and to help. There's not really that bridge there between younger people and young professionals and seasoned professionals. I think sometimes young professionals have to seek out mentors. They're not readily available. Once they do find those mentors, I think they're willing to work with them and give them knowledge and just kind of be a sounding board. But I don't think there's enough that's set in place already where young professionals and seasoned professionals can meet, exchange ideas, create these alliances.
Yes, we do have black professionals here in Omaha, but we're so spread out. We don't have that type of outing or any type of events to where we can all just kind of bring ourselves together and all just kind of bounce ideas off one another. So I definitely believe that this AAYP is something that will definitely reinforce those core values that are very important.
If the young professionals are just talking to themselves about issues that they see, and if the established and seasoned business professionals are just over here talking with themselves and the two groups never meet, nothing's ever going to change. We have to take the first step and actually bridge the conversation gap and step out of our comfort zones and have those conversations with one another. And so I think once we start to do that, those relationships can form and we can actually start to make some change.
We can get some young professionals, a small group or core group, some sort of roundtable discussion of young professionals and established professionals, and come up with a strategy for pursuit, practice, and execution.
In a period where it's critical to transfer knowledge. Young professionals are key because they bring us a fresh perspective, and you want to hear their views as you're planning for the future because they're the leaders of tomorrow.
Utilizing the expertise of those individuals that are around the table, our young professionals, really get them into the forefront and active and engaged. I know that term is really overused at some point, but really when I say engaged, I mean really rolling up your sleeves and really understanding that this journey, which it really is one in which there will be some bumps in the road, but along the way that those bumps will smooth out.
If you could tell or ask the established or seasoned business professionals one thing, what would it be?
Embrace us and not to see us as a threat or an irritant, but ultimately to be willing to teach us and lead us, share their experiences with us, show us what worked and what didn't work so that we don't make the same mistake.
Never underestimate the power of influence. We as young professionals need to stand on your shoulders just as you needed somebody's shoulders to stand on to get to where you are today. And without an organization or a group like the African American Young Professionals, there's a huge disconnect between the two because we don't have general things in common that would make us, I guess, interact with one another per se. So there needs to be something in place that can kind of glue the two groups together and get us knowing one another so we can help each other get to where we want to be.
I would just like them to know that we do need guidance. Even though I have much faith that we can figure it out our own and that we can get it done, it would be nice to have the support of our established professionals who we do look up to.
Do you have anything you would like to say to the African American young professional community of the city?
You are important. Never for 1 second doubt or underestimate your influence as well as the part you play in this community, because it's a vital part.
Whatever answer you're looking for, 75% of it is outside of you. I don't care if you're all that in a bag of chips, you still need others to achieve what you need to achieve. Perfect example.
Invest in professional development. Obviously, the most important thing you can do is go to college and get a degree. But there are also other opportunities to enhance your professional credentials as well as your skills. And so it's important that you recognize that you can't be just as good as the individuals that you're competing with. You have to be better.
My advice would be to know your end game, know your goal, and make decisions directly related to that, and choose carefully.
Say that we are open and inviting and encouraging those leaders to step up. We want to provide opportunities for them to further develop and create more opportunities for them, not only to be at the table, but also what are the skills and skill sets that are needed for them to be successful today and also take this thing forward to do even greater things that we could even imagine.